So for this example, I want to talk about fixing basic stitch issues. You know, there's times where people cross in front of cameras, or if you have like a fluid object that needs repair, you know, that needs moving around and stuff. So that's a little bit more complex, but this is just a basic stitch problem. And you can see over here in this corner, we have this stitch line here that's pretty darn obvious that we want to remove and try to fix as best we can. So there's a lot of ways to do this. You could just try to restitch or something, or do a range stitch or an adaptive stitch if possible. And you know, there's tons of ways you could do that. You could try masking and see if that helps. But if you just want to fix it this way, here's another option. And like almost everything with VFX and any kind of editing in the video world, there's always a million ways to do one thing. So this is just one of those million to do it. So I'm going to show you how to do it this way. So all we really need to do is, once we've identified kind of the areas we want to fix, I basically just export one frame here. So I just created an end, or I used end to create an out point or to end my work area here. So I just have one frame, and I'm going to export this out to a Photoshop sequence, or since it's just one frame, just one Photoshop image. So you do that by adding to your render queue and coming up to Format, choosing Photoshop Sequence, hitting OK, and then just choosing where you want to save it. So I'm just going to save it here, and since I'm only exporting one frame, I don't need a subfolder or anything. That looks good. Hit render. It'll finish up real fast. I just like a clean render queue, so I'm going to delete that and come back here, fix my endpoint. Then we can hide that. Then I'm going to double click on our PSD file that it created here. So this is a full resolution image, the 5664 by 2832, straight from After Effects. And then we can get to work. So the thing I like to do is I zoom in a little bit closer on our area here, and we can start fixing some issues. So I've already noticed some other stitching problems here as well that I'm not a huge fan of, that we can also fix very simply with the technique that I'm about to show you. So what I do is I usually determine what area will be the easiest to tweak. And since basically what I'm going to be doing in Photoshop is I'm going to be selecting an area and warping it to kind of force it to fix this region, right? So I don't want to do anything in an area where either a subject is going to cross in front of, or where it will be really noticeable if I'm doing a lot of warping. I'm going to stay below these pipes here. I'm just going to stick with this region here. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and select just the area here that I want to edit. So I'm going to go right down, bump right into the bottom of that stitch line, and select right along that line as best I can, and do it that way, like so. Okay. So once you've done that, I'm basically going to right-click and then hit Layer via Copy, and it will basically create a new layer for me with just that in it. And if you want as well, we could always go in and choose Select and Mask and do a few options here. You can smooth out the edges just a tad if you really want. I'll leave that as a little bit. I'm going to feather it just by just a skosh, like maybe 0.9 pixels, something like that. But everything else should look pretty good. Then again, I'm going to do Layer via Copy. And then what that gives you is basically a whole new version of that you can manipulate and edit. So all I'm going to do is actually hit the Command T, so Transform tool, and I'm going to hold down Control when I start dragging. And you can notice that I can just start dragging this however I'd like. It makes it really simple to animate different, or to basically edit images to make them, kind of force them to fit in a certain parameter. And once you do that, you'll notice it still looks a little ski-wampus, but at least it's smooth. And that's kind of what you're going for. So then the rest of it, I basically just clone stamp out here. And it's really simple just to come in, and since my layer is still on top, I can just go to town on this right here and really get rid of it. It looks fine. And then up here, there's still a little bit of problems. So, and again, this isn't a Photoshop tutorial. I'm not a Photoshop pro by any means. So I'm sure there's better ways to do stuff like this. So if there is, power to you, go crazy. But basically, this is just a method that I've sort of used in the past that I've really liked to fix really basic stuff instead of trying to spend hours and hours tweaking and trying to fix. So you can edit however you'd like. Then I'm going to do merge layers here, bring it all in one, and fix this little white spot on pipe. There. Bing. And then we have a little bit of issues. I'm going to use the healing brush tool here. to fix some of these not smooth areas on there. And then there's a little harsh area there too I want to fix, and maybe we'll bring in kind of that old pipe. So, okay, so you can see now that it's very unnoticeable, and nobody's going to be able to find that and see exactly where it is. So it's definitely something you're not going to have to worry about. So basically, again, like we've done before, we're creating a clean plate that we can use for editing and stuff in After Effects. So this is another area that we can definitely fix. So I'm basically just going to make this choice here to pull from all of this stuff and just kind of do a quick selection. And again, you could spend a lot more time on this if you really want it and get, you know, perfect selection, but for the sake of tutorialing, I'm just going to show you kind of how I would do it quickly. All right, so once you have your area, again, I'm going to do select and mask, maybe do a little bit of feathering on it so it's not harsh, hit OK, and then I'm going to do a quick adjustment just to pull that down a little bit. And then you see I already forgot something. This makes it a lot harder because you have to Photoshop in or stamp in all the rest of that stuff. So I'm actually going to come back here, come to this. Before I free transform, I'm going to right click again and do layer via copy. So it gives me a new layer. And then I'm going to do it this way. Okay. That looks about right. Hit OK. And yeah, that looks much smoother now. We still have a few little minor things we want to kind of smooth out here, but for the most part, it's pretty much ready to merge. And then we'll do our final adjustments here with some stamping and photoshopping, whatever you want to do. All right, so that looks a lot better. Smooth, no problems. Of course, if you went down to minute detail, people would probably maybe see that little area there. But for the most part, people will be zoomed into about this region here, looking around in your space. So it's not going to be obvious. It's going to look smooth, and that's kind of what you're going for. So you can kind of examine your shot here, and again, you might want to get a little bit closer than just sticking out at this full. I like to come around here, maybe even a little bit closer, if you're really wanting to get specific. And of course, it looks warped because we're not viewing it in 360, but you can still see issues like this and fix them pretty easily in equirectangular mode still. Again, like I say, you could export this out to a cube map and do it that way if you're more comfortable. But if you're just wanting to do it fast, you could do it in equirectangular mode as well. But yeah, all that stitch stuff looks like it's pretty much fixed. Happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out again. This is our clean plate, so I'm just going to hit save and close Photoshop. So once you've created your clean plate in Photoshop, you can go ahead and bring it into After Effects by just dragging and dropping like so, and throwing it on top of your clip. So you'll notice if you click hide and everything that it is now attached. You can kind of see we're in this region, what the before and after looks like. So very subtle, but it's still something that will help. Anyway, so the thing you do now is you basically just tell After Effects which parts of this image you want to use and which ones you don't with masking. Just kind of like what we've done in the past. So I'm going to create a mask here, and you can kind of toggle this on and off to sort of see the before and after, kind of get an idea where you want the mask to be. So this region is probably perfectly good, something like that. We can feather it by like 15 pixels or something. We also have this area up here that we want to use, so I'm going to choose, I think I chose, the thing to remember about this is if you just mask this region, for instance, you'll have another problem here because you actually edited that whole region. You selected all the way out to here, you know, that you'll want to mask out. So you want to make sure to mask that properly. So instead of just that region, you'll want to drag this out to here or so. And you can kind of see where that masking difference is. And then we'll go like to here. Again, it doesn't need to be perfect since those areas, you're not going to have anything crossing in front of it. So you can make the mask as big as you want. So we'll go 20 on this one or something. Now if you solo that layer, you can see out of your entire image, you just have those two little regions that are being brought through from Photoshop. So now you have a perfect looking pano. All this is still video in here and you're good to go. One last thing you can do to help composite this is you can, do like a match green effect, or add grain, whatever you want. Matching grain is nice because it'll make it still look like video, even though it's a still image. There's plenty of compositing techniques that you can utilize to make this look like it's part of the scene. Again, this is not an After Effects tutorial. It's not a compositing tutorial. It's more associated with 360. So go crazy with how you want to make that look even more realistic if you'd like. But that's how I do it, and that's how I get perfect stitches in kind of minor issues there. I fix them in Photoshop, and you're good to go.